Yeah, so we are going to discuss today on role of NGOs in participatory development. Okay, as you have already undertaken that field trip, so yesterday you went to field, you visited field, you might have some understanding about what is happening in the field, right? So let me tell you that when you talk about participatory approaches to development, there are some approaches and methods which are used in development, used by NGOs, used by research agencies, used by universities to study the development. Okay, so here during your field visit also you might have come across many people. You get to know their problem, their issues, the kind of benefit they have derived from the NGOs. So these very approaches are also some of the approach to understand the real life, real conditions. Okay, so it is in align to your field trip. So when we talk about the participatory approaches, as I have already told you that these are some of the methodologies which will give exposure to real life and real conditions, and also facilitate the villagers and those who are marginalized and people from the communities to plan, to design, to even implement, to monitor and evaluate a project themselves. So through these methodologies they can plan for a project, they can even own a project, they can implement a project. Okay, and these methodologies are development of rapid rural appraisal. So initially we have rapid rural appraisal, RRA we call it. So which those approaches were taken by universities. Basically involves that survey, then the questionnaire, we have interview schedule, through which we usually try to conduct the research, those methodologies, and also elicit some information from the key informants and targeted areas. We used to carry out survey, which is not that cheap. It's very expensive at times, and we tend to rely on secondary information. When we talk about the field survey, we tend to rely on secondary information. Most of field survey is primary information, but when we talk about rapid rural appraisal, we tend to rely on secondary information more than primary information, because eliciting the primary information will be time consuming. But here in participatory rural appraisal, that is called PRA, participatory rural appraisal, which we are going to discuss by this broad terminology called participatory approaches. Okay, there are also some other intervention approaches, but these participatory rural appraisals are less time consuming, and it will also not that expensive, and it will try to facilitate the people, try to empower the people, build up confidence among them, build up trust among them, and also help to make a community, people of that community engage with some project, own that development, own that project. That's it. Okay, so here I will also like to discuss about three very interventions. So as you have already discussed with that representative from NGO, Ranjan Das, yesterday. So he might have discussed about some of the intervention scheme that they have undertaken in the villages. So usually NGOs have three very broad intervention strategies, and those are locality development, social planning, and social action. Locality development is based on the process related goal. Process related goal in the sense that you see that when there is a problem related to anomie in the village, lack of motivations and apathy in that village, then there is a need for intervention from external agency to build up that motivation, to build up that energy and the spirit among the villagers, among the community people, and they usually go for formation of self-help group, formation of institutions at the very local level, at grassroots level, and try to develop their capacities. So in the locality development, the emphasis is more on the community building, capacity building, organization of self-help group, and also democratization of decision making. So it is a process oriented goal, in the sense that you see that it is not related to one specific task of the NGO, because it takes for a specific period of time until and unless that organization is formed, people are being motivated, people are being mobilized to take up some action on their own, carry out a course of action on their own, and also people organize themselves through which they can think about their own benefit. They can also distribute the assets among themselves. Okay, so here locality development, you actually see it is also consensus oriented, because the NGOs as an actor here will try to advise the people, try to teach the people, instruct the people, and enable people of that community how to work, how to do. Okay, so they do have an instructor kind of role in the locality development approach. Okay, and they will try to mobilize the people, enable them to motivate themselves, enable them to even behave as a learned one, or also give too much emphasis on awareness on certain issues, which will also help them to fulfill some task. Okay, so you see that it is based on the motto of that democratization of discussion, and also you say decision making power which is being transferred to the local people. Okay, and in a way it will also empower the village people. And then we have social planning. In social planning, it is also another kind of intervention when the goal is very task oriented. So problem is there, so we actually see the nature of the problem or any kind of issues which is being analyzed by researcher, planners or NGOs, and try to work for the community but not work with the community. So that is the difference between these two very approaches. In the very first approaches in the locality development, so NGO intervention is trying to work with the community to bring development, to bring in service delivery, and also to mobilize the group by themselves, to extract out the benefits which are being percolated down by these NGOs. But here in social planning, some of the benefits which are being designed for the community based on the analysis of the problem and the issues of that locality, and that will be provided to the community. So role of the NGO is much more of a facilitator. So here in social action, what we get to see that role of an NGO is about an activist. So it is about an activist. Like an activist, NGO will intervene into that locality, and also you see they try to make people understand about the power equation. You know, understand about the power equation, make people understand about so why it's not coming? It will come. Okay, it will make people understand about the power equation. Okay, power equation in the in that villages, if there is changes in the power equation, why the kind of reality that they are facing. So making people understand those forces which are responsible for any kind of inequities which are available in that locality. And hence social action is also oriented towards confrontation, you know, instead of consensus. It is also trying to look into those confrontational, like, you know, techniques of changing the scenarios. So these all will try to encompass social change, but that too through different interventions. Okay, so while dealing with this very intervention, so briefly I have discussed about this intervention. You also get to find that when you talk about the goals are different, then boundary definition is different. In locality development, boundary will be the community itself. And also in that social planning, it might be a district and few segment of the people maybe for which the services will be available. When NGO will come and construct a school, they will take the responsibility of constructing that school or any infrastructure that they will build. So they will take the responsibility of building the infrastructure. Okay, but here in locality development, they will try to mobilize the people, and through the people they will build the infrastructure. Through the people, with the help of the people, with their participation, with the people's participation in different way, even through even material access to the resources, they will try to build, you see, infrastructure. So in the very first approach, we get to see there is a emphasized over the participation of the people, and in the second two approaches, we get to see in the second approach, participation is a distant, like, goal, and in the third very approach, it is also emphasized upon participation, but here empowering is a different kind of goal. It is it can also be achieved through being, like, confrontational with the existing power structure. So it is related to even social movement and all. So network organizations are also into this very field. Then when we talk about participation, what is participation is important. So participation is an ability to involve into decision making, where you can take the decisions and also own the resources for your well-being. So there are basically two distinct schools of participation when you talk about participation in development and participatory development. And participation in development, in the sense that there is a development scheme, development project which is being carried out, and you participate in that process. And participatory development, so it is basically involves participation at different stages of this development, participation of the people at different stages of development. So we talk about participation as a collaboration when we say different kind of collaborations of NGO with even local bodies, local self-help group, then even women club, youth club, cooperative society, through which they will try to implement a project, is what participation as collaboration. Then you have participation as specific targeting of project beneficiaries, where the marginalized one, those who doesn't have that voice, will also get the benefit of project. Okay, so it is basically meant for those who are not used to be included. Usually they are not included in the schemes of development. Our participation as specific targeting of project beneficiaries. Then participation as organization. So when you talk about participation as organization, it is basically, you see, involvement of people in one organization, participation in one organization, and through which they will get the benefit. Even formation of self-help group, okay, through which also they build their capacity. Okay, that is what participation as organization. And participation as empowering. When you talk about empowering, in the whole process of intervention, the ultimate goal of NGO is to empower the people. So participation in whatever way, you might also be participating through information giving, you might also be participating through being consulted, you might also be participating by contributing some of the resources at your end to the greater development of the community, or you might also be participating to give information to any of the research bodies about the needs of your family, about the needs of the communities, needs of that society. So in that way, you will also give some stake of participation, you will provide some stake of participation to facilitate the development, and in that way you will also feel that you have been empowered. So participation process is highly empowered in the sense that marginalized people are also getting the chance to be included. At the same time, they also get to understand the power inequities in the villages and the real pictures of that village, what has made them to be at a lesser end or at a lower end. So then we have some forms of participation. These are participation, it could be of varying intensities. According to S.M. Vijayanand, he has developed this very ranks of participation. He said that there is anti-participation when we are forcefully making people to participate. So this is not the right participation. We cannot make people to participate when they are not inclined to participate, and that is equivalent to anti-participation. Then zero participation is also there, which is not motivated at all. People, when people are not motivated, but here people are not being imposed also. So they are not being motivated owing to their own regions, because of which we can understand that there might be zero participation. Information sharing, that is often there. We share information in different way, in different platforms, and rural people will not get that platform to share this information, and that space, that platform is supposed to be created by an external agency, and that is the NGO, through which they can share information. Even media has a role. As a civil society organization, media has a role in terms of information sharing. They can also pull out information from the rural households and disseminate and present the information in front of audience. So here information sharing has a role, two-way role. We also have a diffusion of innovation theory in media, through which we actually typify the way information is being diffused. Any innovation is being diffused over the years, or any new information, any new innovation is being diffused over the years. So here also, when you talk about this information sharing, media has a role in information sharing, NGO has a role in information sharing, and the NGO's role in facilitating and motivating people to share their information. Media's role in motivating people to share this information is also important. And then we talk about the consultations. When you see that many a time people are consulted before taking a course of actions by NGOs, because understand the feasibility of participations, feasibility of mobilization, and where to mobilize, how to mobilize, the kind of barriers and challenges that they have come across is very, very important also for participation, and which can be possible through consultation with them. So prior to intervene into the field, so an NGO usually go and they consult with them. Okay, and these consultations can also be done by the media. So we also have a media NGO interface, but here when we actually go to the field and report, then we see that journalists also used to get lot of information from the field. Now the thing is that how they will present the information is the issue. How they will write the story, how they will present the information. Okay, so there are also two institutions from NGOs also. They will get to acquaint and learn about their schemes, their intervention schemes, the success stories of the NGOs. But from the very beneficiaries, they actually learn how far they are being benefited. Okay, and what are the challenges, what are the lacunas in the delivery, in the service delivery, and what are the actual needs, whether those needs are being identified and meet or not. Then we talk about the consent. Consent is important while taking any course of action. So consent of the people is very important. Without taking their consent, if you as an NGO representative, if you go to a community, if you dig a well because you see that there are lack of water bodies in that village, so perhaps it will not give them the adequate benefit which is required, because their need is not addressed without even taking their consent, because they might not require a water body or might be a well in that very locations. So you need to get the consent also from the people prior to carry out any actions, any intervention plan. And for journalists also, without consent, journalists cannot do anything. So journalists can record everything. There is also terminologies that we often come across, on the record and off the record. And it's very important for journalists to even identify themselves. At times it's important they should identify themselves while taking the information that they are journalists. Now you see during that digital platform. So we see due to digital platform, lot of digital platforms are there. What is happening is that we can look into the chat room and we can get this information from the people and we can make wonderful stories. But that is not the right way, ethical way to gather the information. And hence consent of the people is also important, and identifying yourself as another source of information is also very important, because along with NGOs and the stakeholders and also rural beneficiaries, you will also be one source and the professional source, and they are also source which will be giving you this information. Then contribution. Contribution is important, as I have told you. It might be of material contributions, labor, land, labor, capital. In different way, village household can contribute. They can provide the land for construction of a PHC center, public health center. They can also provide some material incentive, right? And land, labor, capital, and labor also they can provide, through which they can participate in any kind of development program. Then autonomous action is a partnership is there, partnership and autonomous action. So these are at the highest ladder of participation. As we get to see this ladder of participation, so partnership is there. So partnership is possible among even private bodies and NGOs, along with this local grassroots groups, through which you could actually see there will be service delivery to the local group. So that is also another form of participation, partnership. Autonomous action, when those self-help groups that we are actually talking of, they without having dependence on the external body, without depending on the external body, they will take their own actions, own course of actions. Then you will actually see that they have achieved at the highest level of participation, and that is called autonomy. Okay, that is the highest level, and they also try to forming and forging partnership with other NGOs, other group, to distribute the benefits, not among themselves, but also to a few more beneficiaries. They identify and distribute the benefit. In that case, you can actually see participation will be more. So this is basically similar. So it is similar to the same form of participation earlier was given by S.M. Vijayanand, and then we have J.N. Patti, according to which we also have functional participation, passive participation, interactive participation, and self-mobilization. Okay, these are similar forms of participation which we have already discussed. Then we see NGOs and participation in action. So we have Government of India launched a community development program in 1952, and that has been viewed as a movement with active involvement of the people. In community development program has emphasized upon the active involvement of the people. So participatory natural resource management has led to effective use of scarce natural resources and provide perennial source of life support to the people around. So there are certain fields actually where we get to see this participatory rural appraisal is being carried out in natural resource management, because it involves mapping, it involves ranking. So it involves a natural resource management where how resources are being managed, the kind of availability of the resources, suppose the forestry, water bodies, okay, different types of trees and plants, health related plants which will also give us some health benefits. So different kind of plants are managed and mapped out as a part of participatory rural appraisal. Then we have this agriculture. When you talk about this agriculture about the cropping pattern, about also seasonal variety of the seeds at different seasons, okay, which will also help to understand irrigation, which will help to understand about the harvesting of the crops and the kind of um, sustainability that a village community could get through agriculture. People poverty and livelihood are certain areas where we could actually conduct the PRA. So in people in poverty and livelihood, how you see pattern of livelihood is being administered. So different pattern of livelihoods are there on the basis of income they have earned, on the basis of you see education. So the kind of livelihood, okay, and kind of job they hold is important, which could also be mapped. And then people, that population growth, the trend of population, then also ratio of male and female could also be mapped. Then poverty, that we can have an assessment of the poverty through even PRA. Then health and nutrition, which is also important about the health status of that villages and nutritional status of that village. And then urban, that is basically this is urban development, so urban areas. So the kind of problem which are there in any kind of, you see, urban areas, the kind, the crimes, the trend of crimes is also another that incident which could be mapped via PRA. Then this is basically urban development. So we will discuss about some of the important aspect of implementation of PRA, but prior to it we will discuss the comparison between the PRA and RRA. So as I have already told you that RRA is rapid rural appraisal, which came in 1970s and 1980s. So you actually see the indicators. So major development that came in 1970s and 80s, and innovation. So who is actually carried out this RRA? Universities. And PRA has been carried out by NGOs, and government also started undertaking that PRA. And then main users are aid agencies and universities in terms of RRA. And also we see that main users of PRA are NGOs and government will organizations. Then you see innovation in RRA is methods, and innovation in PRA is behavior. Okay. Then the main actors are outsiders. In RRA, main actors are local people. And objective is data collection, and objective of PRA is empowerment. So objective of RRA is collecting data, and that is the eliciting of information. So it is focusing upon eliciting information, so it is highly elicitative. So here in PRA, we are focusing on the local people, their empowerment, the mobilization, their organization, so it is highly empowering. Then we also have some example of PRA. It was first started, PRA was started in 1985, but Konkan International Conference, that term was first used, and then in International Institute of Environment and Development in 1986, that PRA was used. The term was being used. But in 1990s, we get to see that at Panchayat level, Kerala government, state government have used, Kerala state government has used PRA at Panchayat level to also elicit information from women. Then we will briefly discuss about how it is implemented. Okay, so how PRA is being implemented and tools of PRA. So basically you see that interview, case studies, project work, focus group discussion, timeline, historical profile, diagram, seasonal calendar, matrix ranking, and SWOT analysis. So these are some of the tools of PRA. So you know this very interview, you say case studies, focus group discussion, these are also some of the methods that we use in rapid rural appraisal. And when you carry out a case study, we also carry out surveys, and so we fetch out some of the information, some of the stories. But our understanding of the rural people is very limited, because we don't involve local people to know about themselves. So here PRA is involving local people to know about themselves and also giving us some of the information about them. So here we actually see these are some of the tools which we have bought from RRA, that rapid role appraisal, and also giving it a place in this PRA. So for one kind of study we can also have multiple tools applied in the field. So you can actually have a transect work, that is observatory work in the villages, and that usually be done in the very first instance when you go and intervene into that village. You go intervene, you carry out a transect work in the village, you try to understand the resources of the village, about the key stakeholders of the village who will be taking decisions, how decisions are being taken through an observatory work. So you will try to understand it. Then you see the focus group discussion, which is usually carried out. So mobilize 2 or 3 people and you give them a question and try to elicit their opinion on it. And timeline is also there. Timeline is often used in terms of some events, festivals which are being carried out. So timeline, that listing of the events and also listing of the trend and any change analysis which is being happening in that community is placed in timeline. And case studies, when you talk about the case studies, is actually involve the interview, survey, as well as transect work and even the timeline. Then we see the historical profile, which is important, and in historical profile we basically focus on the folklore, folktale of that villages, proverb which are being used, which will give us some understanding about the history of that community, what has happened way back in that community. Okay, so understanding the historical profile of a community is important, and from the very folktale and the folklore and also proverbs, some of the stories of the local people will help us to understand the history of that community. So you can also have a historical profile of the community. Diagram. So Venn diagram and Chapati diagrams are being basically 2 varieties of PRA. So a problem tree is another diagram that we usually draw. So when we talk about the Venn diagram, so here we usually I have also a picture of Venn diagram. So if you haven't seen, so this is the one, you see, this is the Venn diagram that we have. Okay, so here you see, first we identify the number of organizations in the villages, and on the basis of their role in service delivery to the village household and their primacy in the village, so we get to find the size of that diagram. So within a circle we actually see, we draw multiple circles within a bigger circle, and if this is the community, so bigger circle is the community, it is representative of the community. Then we also have different smaller circle and medium sized circle. So size represent the primacy of that institution for the village community. So how important that institution for the village community, the kind of service which are delivered via that institutions or that organization for the village community are adequate, are relatable, are relevant or not, and how accessible that institution to the village community. Bigger the circle, bigger the size of the circle, so we get to find that this institution is more accessible, more relevant to the village community. That institution is also more relatable to the village community. At the same time, we also have different circles which are, you see, overlapping circles that represent the importance of the circle. At the same time, activities are also overlapping, you know. So like we have that PSC, we have other dispensaries, we have school, we have police stations, we have cooperatives, village cooperatives, we have Mahila Mandals. So there are different organizations which are there in a village, which could be represented via this drawing, okay, through a circle. And the bigger one is a community. So outside the community also we can draw some circles. So the boundaries of the communities we can draw some circles, so which are placed in the boundary, in the margin of that village, so not in that community. Then we have some root causes. So when we talk about the root causes, so you're okay, this is about the problem tree, okay, so moving to the problem tree, this is another diagram. So we have discussed about the diagram. Another diagram is the problem tree, where we try to analyze the cause and consequences of that program, that problem. Okay, so why a problem has happened and what will be the effects of that particular problem. So it is usually applied in development communication. Study the problem. If you actually see the problem is related to low fertility land, so that might be a problem. Then you try to understand the region behind low fertility, low soil fertility, or even low harvesting of the crop. The region behind low harvesting of the crop may be low fertility land, deforestations. Those are the root cause. Then the consequence of problem will be the low income. Because of low fertility, deforestation, there is low harvesting. Low harvesting is the region due to why? The region behind the low harvesting is the low fertility, and you see the lack of rainfall and also deforestation, and that has led to a problem related to migration, related to low income, related to malnourishment. Okay, so you actually study the cause and effect of the problem via problem tree. So it is usually used in participatory development. And then we usually prepare a seasonal calendar. This exercise is used to determine the seasonal pattern in rural areas. Okay, so when you discuss about the seasonal pattern of the rainfall, seasonal pattern of any disease concentration, you also see, and also you see a seasonal pattern of water concentration in water bodies. Okay, so like that way you can develop a seasonal calendar month-wise or you see year-wise. Seasonal calendar could be developed to even here you actually see seasonal calendar could be developed where you could gather some data from the local people to actually understand, you see, the resources, the condition of the resources. Okay. And then we also have that historical profile here, so which we have studied. And then we have matrix ranking. So it is a tabular representation of you see, that helps to compare one selected feature with another. Tabular representation of some of the data. So suppose you see, you can have a matrix ranking of the livestock. So number of livestock household of Mansuri villages have. They do have cattle, they do have goat, they do have cows, horse, poultry, pig. Like that way we could have a tabular representation in one side of the table, in one column of the table. You can draw the you see the livestock, and then you put the value and attributes of the livestock, like the price. Livestock used as a use for selling, for marketing. So price of the livestock, the values they have earned from selling a goat, selling a horse, and then use livestock for manual purpose, other manual work. Okay, and the values they derive. Okay, so you can also put tick mark like that way. So in that way, what you can do, you can give 1-2 marks, and at the end you can calculate the number of marks. If you give 1 marks, then you actually see that number of preference and rank, it will hold, and you can give a number, and you can also find the value. So that's what matrix ranking is usually done, and SWOT analysis is very important. That is basically strength, weakness, and opportunity, and threat analysis. Social mapping, which is also very important when you basically try to map the communities, existing communities in the villages. You see number of religious communities, you segregate it on the basis of religion. Community segregated on the basis of caste and the class. There's a rich people, a poor people, then BPL category people, APL category people, then also kacha houses, pakka houses. Okay, then you also see that people who are educated, their families with literate members, with illiterate members, families having members having higher education, families with member having higher education, families with member having primary education. Like this, in that way you can actually create a social map of the villages, and also here you emphasize on this community and social aspect, demographic aspect of the population here. And in resource mapping, here we basically try to map the resources of the villages, like the existing water bodies, the trees, then also you see potable drinking water, that grazing land. So like that way you can also map the resource. And here there are also certain criterias to go for social mapping, where you actually choose a common place for drawing social map and you involve the local people. So there has to be a location where you draw that map. So here you can also carry some white papers with you. You can spread that papers. You can let your team to draw by eliciting the information from the village. They will draw the diagram, and they will also map the village. And then you can also involve people from all the categories, and you make use of local resources. You can make use of pencil, rangolis also. You can draw that map on the ground as well. Okay, and try to avoid temptation. This is also said, try to avoid temptation of giving suggestions. And once the map is ready, you can copy it on paper and take a photograph. Okay. So you see, these are the two examples that I have given. I cannot enlarge it. So you have that resource mapping here, and here is this social mapping. In social mapping, you get to see the number of kacha houses, pakka houses, and even number of educated families, illiterate families, literate families. Like that way, you can also categorize number of houses having meals at their home, houses having shops in their home. So like that way, you can categorize houses. Okay. So see, why I wanted you to understand this is that you have already carried out this field survey. So you have understood the views of the local people and the benefits they have derived from the schemes, right? But this NGO SESTA hasn't yet carried out PRA. So this is also a kind of intervention. PRA is an intervention methodology through which they understand the real livelihoods, real conditions, and real situation. But prior to conduct of PRA, an NGO need to study a lot about the village. They need to gain a lot of secondary informations. They need to also interact with the village peoples, village heads, and also people from different segment. And these are gamut of methods. And for these, people also need to be trained to conduct PRA. So some NGOs usually carry this PRA, some NGOs do not carry PRA. And SESTA is yet to carry this PRA, but they are implementing PRA from next phase, they have said. Okay. So PRA is important. This participatory approach to development is important. And regarding the tutorials of writing, so on the basis of the substance which you have got from the field, you can now develop a story. So in the previous lectures, you have already got the idea how to develop a story. So while developing a story, you were supposed to have the beginning, middle, and the end. Okay. And we in journalism, we tend to follow an inverted pyramid. Inverted pyramid, it is also a distinct structure where we put the most important information in the very beginning and the least important information at the tip of the pyramid. So you see that pyramid is inverted, so important information, the crux of the stories are placed in the beginning of the pyramid. Okay, so as a human rights journalism, you also need to take care of some of the ethical concerns here. And many a time, you see, human rights journalists, they might be mainstream journalists, they might be citizen journalists, and many citizen journalists are also human rights journalists. We also have a polarization into these various streams. We have a mainstream professional journalist, they are trained and they have year-long service, and they have also certain values, they are integrated and entangled with that code of conduct and the values. But when you talk about the citizen journalist, everyone can also report about development, report about any incident that is happening, they can gather information, they can disseminate information, they can present information. Okay, so here in terms of serving the purpose of this workshop, as we have tried to gain that space, so where we get to find the insights from journalists, insights from even NGO representatives, and insights from faculty members and students as well. So to a certain extent we are being successful. Although participants could not join us for an extended period of time just because it is of 12 days, so certain challenges definitely we have come across, so we need to mention it. But you see that what is important now for you to understand while developing story is about the spirit with which you can actually go and develop that spirit. So we also talk about journalistic spirit. When you talk about the journalistic spirit, you see it is not free from the code of ethics, or you see that some values all the time. So when you talk about the citizen journalist or the alternative journalist, the people who report the development, people who report human rights are named as alternative journalist because they usually report deviated from the mainstream news reporter. So they don't follow the same constricted structure of the mainstream journalist, because there are a lot of constraints mainstream journalists usually need to face, because there are also problems related to production, there are constraints related to proprietor business constraint related to story, constraint related to their own personal attribute. So hence what is important here is that to understand the constraint first and then you report. So normally what happened for a mainstream journalist, they need to think about the business interest, they need to think about the proprietor's interest, they need to think about the financial interest of the news organization. And also the person who is a journalist of the mainstream news organization need to work in terms of news values. You might have also learned about the news values. So certain news values are there which will make the news newsworthy. Like we have the timeliness, we have also proximity, oddity. These are certain news values which we will need to focus upon to write a story, like how like timely that information is. Okay, so anything happen today will be more important for us than what is happened yesterday, right? So the timeliness is very important for news. Oddity is important. So some accident happened, that too within this proximity. So it does have a value for us, because we will definitely take interest into any kind of calamities happen nearby, any kind of accident happen nearby, a bus wreck nearby will definitely cater to our interest. But even that incident may not cater to the interest of the people from another region. But if it involves the oddity, auditing strains, some strains nays of the incident, and also it takes many lives, many casualties. That also becomes a consequence and auditing. So we have certain news values, so that will make it a newsworthy. So while reporting the development, you cannot even think, many times you need to think beyond news values, but you see these are also very important aspect to consider. You see the timeliness of any event, so you need to keep yourself updated about development. Any intervention is being carried out by NGOs, by even government, then you need to keep yourself updated. So that is what is timeliness. When you talk about the proximity, that any kind of development program is being carried out, intervention schemes, so many intervention schemes are being there by the government, and how it is being carried out in your locality. So local proximity, how localities, your localities are getting benefited by those schemes, will also bring another development story. So that will give you a proximate angle. Consequence of the development is very important. So when you talk about the you see consequences of those schemes which are being implemented, intervention program which are being implemented. Okay, so that will also give you a development angle. And then you also see the human interest is always there. So poverty is also one kind of human interest. Nowadays people won't look it as human interest, because human interest is also related to that emotion, joys, your passion, your spirit, etc. So any kind of entertainment angle will give a human interest to a story. But you see, even the consequence of anything, so suppose any development schemes which have also brought benefit to larger section of the people, and you could actually see their brimming with smile and all. Okay, that could also be a kind of human interest story, right? So that's how we can also relate the news values with this development journalism. And you see, what is important here while reporting, it has been emphasized in the lectures also, the context. Context is very, very important. While you report, you can report about any incident, you can report about structural problem, you can report about the very, you say, proximate problem. Proximate problem is the enabling problem. When you talk about the structural problem which are there in the structure, structural problem maybe our legacy, colonial legacy will also bring in many structural problem in one village. We can also have a problem related to, you see, environmental degradation. That is a structural problem. Problem related to the breakdown of tradition and values is a structural problem. Then also you see there are other policy of the government which can bring some structural problem. So structural problem usually affect the people very slowly, but you can report on the structural problem. Okay, environmental degradation, you can report, that is a structural problem. It will affect the people slowly. It has been affecting the people slowly. And then we talk about those, you see, the legacy, colonial legacy, that might have a different implication on the people, the way they work and the way the organizations are being functioning. So that will be another structural problem, problem. Poverty is a structural problem. So assessment of the poverty and trend of the poverty, if you study, that will be a kind of structural problem. Then there are certain problems which are called proximate problem, that will have a mediating effect on the communities which are being basically targeted, or you see which who are the beneficiaries and who we are reporting. Okay, so when you talk about the proximate problem, proximate problem is an enabling problem. Suppose the impact of liberalization, impact of social organization, impact of social reform policies of the government, impact of government policies, new policies, will be taken as the proximate or enabling problem. Then we also have some of the other problems, like we usually take it immediate problem, and government crackdown on, you see, the oppressed group. That might also be a problem, or paramilitary forces. That would be the right word on the oppressed group. That might also lead to an immediate problem. Okay, and any kind of hesitation from the protester, which turned violent. They have also carried out direct action method. They have, carried out this loot, and they have burned the effigies and all, and not even limited to it. They also need to destroy some of the public and damage some of the public assets. So that will also a kind of, you see, immediate problem, so which we need to look into. And okay, it is not there. So you see, it is very important for human rights journalists or development journalists to have a deeper understanding of the factors which have caused the problem. And you also try to give a solution or recommendations to the targeted agency, whom you are targeted, or targeted reader, whom you are targeted through your writing. Okay, what solution you would give to that targeted agency, targeted reader, targeted audience. Okay, so it is very important to focus on a solution and also have a deeper understanding about the factors that are to cause human rights violation. So any kind of violation, you actually see there are also cultural violence. Cultural violence, when you talk about a cultural violence, breakdown of social norms, and xenophobia, you talk about some of the myths that will glorify one community against another, xenophobia, that hatred against one community, and you can talk about some of the beliefs, religious beliefs, which are also against one community. Then you could see that these very cultural norms might incite violence and lead to physical violence and lead to human rights abuse. So which could also be reported, but understanding the cause of that violence is very, very important. So here we are not supposed to go for hard news reporting. So that is the inverted pyramid. So which is very constricted way, because we usually report for plus minus 600 word. So that is the hard news, the format of hard news reporting. So you usually don't write more than 600 words. So but here we need to analyze it. So we focus more on establishing the context and also establishing the counter narratives. So development journalist has a role establishing the counter narratives, establishing the context, and also give voice to the voiceless is very, very important. Give voice to the voiceless, and also try to understand the root cause of any problem and issues. Okay. Okay. Is there any question? No? Okay. So I'm finishing it off. Okay. To just pinpoint one of the mistake that is being shown in the PowerPoint. So actually that was a typo error. That is the government, that is that typo error need to be corrected. So, and any inconveniences so caused because of this is regretted.